Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath, the podcast that explores the movies that influenced how we view love and romantic relationships. Yes, there will be spoilers. I'm your host, Diana Roderick-Sconard.
Hello, Diana.
Hey, Polina, how's it going?
Good.
Oh my goodness.
We're here again together.
Yes, it is. And thank you everyone who has joined Polina, myself, and Ryan.
Don't cry.
Like crying? Who's crying? You're crying.
Do you want to take bets on who cries first?
Uh,
Not it.
I'm probably, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
I mean, that's okay.
I'll take Diana to place.
This is my place, yes.
Yes.
And I would like to, at the moment, if you hear the sounds in the background, that is our dog Pepper.
Oh my God, such a love. Like, honestly, just like the minute he came in, I came in, she was like, I actually did not say hello to Ryan or Diana when I came in. I just went straight for the dog.
Yeah. That's our new girl. We love her very much. And she is here for the last episode. Oh my God. Okay, so it's really hard to figure out how are we going to do this. So I will start with what everyone loves, statistics.
This is what everybody wants, all content.
Hooray.
Let's start with the math.
Well, I have stats and I just, Diana, just read the thing. Okay, facts. We'll just go with some facts right now. Number one, first episode, Only You was the movie. It was originally published May 24th, 2017. So that's where we started. We've been at the podcast has been on for 5.5 years.
Oh my God.
And when I say estimated, is that you never know what's going to happen between now and then of when this episode happens. And it's just like, oh no, I had a technical glitch. Grind, quick. Let's throw together an episode about this movie I just saw on Hulu. Let's go. So an estimated 150 episodes, estimated 142 movies. And all
142?
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet. And as of the recording of this episode, 53,000 downloads.
Oh,
all right.
Congratulations.
Thank you kindly. And gross revenue that we have taken in, $391.40.
Woohoo!
Cha-ching.
That was Frankie and Murr.
Yep. Thank you, Frankie and Murr.
So if you divide by 5.5 years,
Go to Frankie and Murr and use the coupon code on your credit card to buy some stuff.
it's very possible we talked about this on the podcast, but I want to give the listeners these little two factoids as well. The first episode that we ever recorded, it is The Lost Pilot. Do you remember the movie we did?
Wait, that was Only You. Oh, no.
Only You was the first episode we released.
It was...
I can help.
Yeah,
I think
please.
it was on the list I just showed you before we were recording.
So
too.
the very
I
first
didn't
movie,
know I was giving it away.
Yeah, the first movie we did was 2 Weeks Notice.
That's it.
And wait, no, I put the wrong... I didn't remember the right movie. Jeez.
And we recorded it in like June 2016. And we sat on about 6 episodes and did not want to put them out.
Until he
I actually wrote down, Ryan gave us the shove.
Oh, yeah, he sat us down in my old house. This is my second, so I lived on Market Street, and we were in our living room, and we're like, he's like, you're making this happen, like, today. We went over, we had like an all-day work session.
Didn't we like record the intro at that time?
Wrote and recorded, picked out the theme music.
Yeah. Which we found on the internet.
There's a lot of grumpy Diana.
We still haven't really finished the WordPress site 5.5 years later. I'm going to go with like that is a total cobbler's shoe situation. Like,
And
And
then ultimately we decided to not release it because that movie includes Donald Trump. And we definitely rambled on about that for a while. In June 2016, our opinions about Donald Trump.
Yep.
Kind of tipped the hand on the timing of like the gap between recording and publishing.
That was, yes, exactly.
Also,
do we want, I don't want to embarrass you, but do you want to say how long it was between that and when you actually published the first episode?
Well, I just said June 2016 is when we recorded it. So May 24th, 2017.
Yes,
that's, there you go.
Nearly a year.
Yeah. So,
well, I think we were told... and I think this is actually good advice, was that you should do your podcast a few times. Have them, just have them in the bank because, it's good to have. But also to try to develop what it is, which definitely happened in our case.
Yes.
Because it was a very different idea when it first happened.
It was awkward, to say the least. We paused a lot to watch clips and then come back and talk about them.
Well, yeah, because basically, so Diana and I met because I work with Ryan. I worked very closely with Ryan. We sat next to each other like, for a lot of it. And and I met at the Plus holiday party, which I think I just had started, and we had I just had started, and so I didn't actually know a ton of people, so I ended up hanging out with Diana basically, and we ended up we went out to something, and then we just ended up snarking on bad romantic comedy. So so we would meet up, occasionally, and we would always talk. This would be like always what we talked about, and we were like, oh, we should do this. This would be really fun. We'll just snark on romantic comedies. But I think early on we realized, like, actually it's really boring.
Well, to be fair, we're not very good at it.
No, we're really not.
We're not that funny.
No, we're not that funny.
There are people who do it better than we do. And I think what was important is that I was thinking, honey, should I start a podcast? Ryan, should I start a podcast? I kind of want to start a podcast. I don't want to start a podcast. What? And then you asked Polina about it, and you instantly, your eyes just lit up, and you went, "Let's do that!" And I'm like,
"Well, because I actually worked at a podcast company, and I knew how to edit sound. I mean, not like very well, but I knew the basics.
So already ahead of me.
So I was like, I understood how easy it was because I worked for a company that like did it.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is actually really low barrier to entry, and we should just try it.
And a scant year and a half later,
I did it.
We got it done. So that's a little bit of our history. We knew it. Thank you for letting us share it with you. When I was saying I'm gonna wind down HEAMCast, and for the record, I keep saying wind down because it's like no more episodes on a schedule. We never know what the future holds. I don't want people to hold on to hope, but for now, I am just stepping away from the schedule, and I'm not going to stop guesting on other podcasts. I will always talk about movies if I feel like it. So.
Yeah.
But I put out a request for people to message us, questions, replies, make us cry, do all of the above. So here I am, Polina, Ryan.
I haven't heard this.
No,
You haven't. You haven't. So I have a few messages here.
Oh my God.
Here's the first one, okay? Okay, this one came from Facebook. Do you need iTunes podcast promotion? Do you want to grow general people for your podcast? Okay, never mind.
It's so beautiful.
Oh my God. They really care about our future.
How about this? From Twitter. The lovely Angela. Oh, it's currently Angela to be jolly. At Angela to be pecked. I'll miss having HEAMCast in my feed. Thank you for all the fun to listen to content. I wish you the best in all your future projects. And then a gif of Keanu Reeves from Always Be My Maybe doing the kiss.
That is lovely. Thank you.
So and I saw that and I'm just like, also Keanu. Yay.
Yeah.
Keanu makes everything better.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angela.
Very well chosen gif.
Okay. So this is from Neil, and this came from Facebook. So I just wanted to thank you for such a good podcast. I first found you in 2020 during the lockdown over here in the UK, and you and Polina really helped to cheer me up that summer.
Oh my God.
Whilst the world seemed to be falling apart, you two were making me grin from ear to ear as I listened to you talk about some of my favorite films. Just a handful of the many highlights for me certainly include Can't Hardly Wait, The Lost Boys,
Ooh.
Better Off Dead, Romancing the Stone, True Romance, Adventures in Babysitting, and of course, the movie that led me to discovering you, Roxanne.
Oh, wow.
I tend to watch Roxanne every summer, and forevermore, I will always follow it up with re-listening to you and Polina talk about it.
Oh, Neil.
Thank you for being responsible for me watching Being John Malkovich. And shame on you for being responsible for me watching Teen Wolf 2.
Okay, fair. We're so sorry about that. We'll send you a fruitcake.
This is still Neil. Haha. What other podcast can keep the conversation witty, insightful, charming, and honest during discussions of such classic films like The Apartment, It's a Wonderful Life, Titanic, and National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1? Now I have to hold my hands up and say I have not watched every movie you've covered, Some because I just don't have the access to them, and some because I'm pretty certain they will not be my cup of tea. However, I still have many to catch up on, and I am certainly excited to get some kind of wonderful Bull Durham, The Lost City, and Heathers very soon.
Wow. Okay.
And if you want Circle of Friends, good friggin' luck, because that's just...
Yeah, that's weirdly difficult to find. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a special one. Thanks to Polina for being there with you in the beginning. Thanks to each and every one of your amazing guests. And the biggest thanks goes to you, Diana. Good luck with your future adventures. P.S. How could I forget not to mention Not Another Teen Movie? I was so happy when I saw that episode pop up on my phone. And then he says, please feel free to share this message or include it in your final show. Kind wishes, Neil.
Oh my God.
And
So much. Oh,
I almost cried when I read this.
I'm really emotional right now.
And I said thank you to Neil in the message, and he responded back with the Chris Evans gift from Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, genius. Okay. Obviously a very,
This is just
even the gifts are making me cry, man.
Oh, it just, I don't truly understand, millennials' reactions to just gifts, or not gifts and Gen Z and blah, 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 and gifts and whatever. I'm just gifts can just make me just
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm not going to give them up. I thought, I'm just not, because I don't care anymore.
They work. I'm sorry, but just tiny emoji, I was anti-emoji until I realized, oh no, sometimes just a heart is what I want to send, and sometimes the heart is not enough, and I have to have the gift.
You need Chris Helmworth.
Any Chris for that matter. It's so funny you said that, because I was going to say sometimes you need the gift from Dirty Work where Norm Macdonald's being thrown into a dumpster.
I mean, sometimes you do. Or that gif of Fonzie going, fuck. Neil, thank you so much. Those are some of my favorite movies too, and you should definitely find them. Another dark winter. Don't know if all of them are worth it, but they're certainly a blast.
Neil, that was just I told you one-on-one in our messages that was lovely, but that was so lovely and wonderful, and it's just honestly it was overwhelming to read.
Yeah.
Because it's just Neil, what are you doing out there? How'd you find this? I know we put it out there, but how did you find this?
I think it's weird. I have to say, doing this podcast, one of the things this is why I'm glad I did it with another person, is I really wanted to put something out there where I don't even tend to really, I'm not even really a big social media person. I don't tend to, and it's not because I'm shy. It's just because I don't know. I really overthink that kind content.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was really freeing just to put something out there that I enjoyed and I loved doing, but I just was able to let it go and be out there. That was really freeing for me. And there is something so crazy to the fact that you put something out and it feels really intimate to you and I.
Right.
And then people find it and they you develop that relationship with the podcast host. And I know how that feels. And it's crazy to think of yourself being one of those people.
I don't truly understand how people could know that much about me. And I'm just who are you?
Yeah. I mean,
okay. Hi, nice to meet you. Seriously? Okay. Yeah.
And, and then in times the pandemic or times I remember I was moving and I really got sucked into the Janet Varney podcast. I'm oh no, this really did help me through this time, because it's
right.
a little window. You get out of your own head. Yeah, it's a really intimate medium. And I think I forget that. And or I don't forget that, but that's really cool, Neil. Thank you. That means a lot to me, actually.
Yeah, me too. We have an email from our dear friend of the podcast, Meg.
Oh,
I saw it come in and I immediately hid it, because I'm I may cry if I read this, and if I'm going to cry because I read this, then I better be recording it.
Better save it for air.
Can I change my bet?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I didn't know that part. See, I didn't have enough information. That's why I assumed it was me. I was she's read all this.
Are you ready?
Ready as I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Meg. Hi, Diana and Polina and Ryan. I'm okay. Doesn't count. I choked. for your final episodes, in parentheses, I have some questions and comments. Ooh. Okay. Of all the scenarios you've discussed about what happens to the couple after the credits roll, are there any that you've had second thoughts about and want to revise your prediction?
Oh my God, I wish I was ready for that.
Megan challenges us.
Yes.
I mean, first off, memory. I'm like, they were all pretty half-assed, so I don't know if they're actually ingrained in me in any way.
Hey.
Don't mind me while I frantically scroll through the podcast feed on my phone to remember the episodes.
Same.
Woo. Okay. Who did I? So here's something that's kind of important about like what's been going on lately. Like, I've been watching a lot of more recent movies, and Polina, you and I had discussed this off air, where it's kind of tough because like a big core of what we were doing on the podcast was getting those movies that are at the hitting us at the very like prime of our like emotional growth. And so having to do this where I'm just like, yep, I watched that movie. Yep, I hope they stay together. And then I really started to feel stale. I'm like, I want them to stay together. I want them to stay together. There's no nuance because I'm actively looking for movies where I want to root for the characters. I'm not going to find the movies where it's just like, well, screw them from the beginning. I have no interest in them whatsoever. Ooh, what do you think will happen? Well, I'll have a more interesting answer if I have more than just, I like them together. I wonder, have there been any ones where it's like they stayed together and you're just like, oh, never mind.
You know, I feel like the ones, I don't know if there's any particular ones, but I feel like there were some where I was just too harsh.
Oh, totally.
Like, I don't even really remember a particular one, but I just feel like sometimes I was just so like, I don't want, like, I just was kind of really way too cynical about it. And I feel like most of those were probably your movies a little bit. Like there's probably a genre like, there's like a genre of teenage comedy that I think I never got into.
Okay. And
so I feel like I was probably a lot harsher on those than I should have been. Because I wasn't really like, I was treating them as people in the real world, not people in the movie. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the emotional resonance of the movie.
Well, of course, you're seeing it from an adult perspective, and I'm seeing that like Polina.
Right. The first time I'm watching, like I don't have a kid. Like some of those, I just didn't have a a sort of a teenage perspective on. Right. I didn't want. Yeah. So I think, and then I think.
If I may interrupt with one that I remember you did not have a good time watching this movie.
I know which one.
America's Sweethearts.
Oh my God.
I think that's one where I had them be together.
Yes.
And I want to, if that, I don't remember what I said, but I think
that is like exhibit A of ones I wish I was a little less harsh about.
Well, no, my thing is just like, I think I kept them together and I'm now at this point where I'm just like, never mind. I don't think I like them together. I think I didn't like Eddie, John Cusack's character as much. I mean, it was John Cusack, so he can do no wrong. Looking back, oh no, he can do so wrong.
So wrong.
Shoot. You know, now that I think about it, like, I think most John Cusack movies where it's like high fidelity, I think I kept them together because it's John Cusack.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I feel like maybe High Fidelity was one of mine too.
I think so too. I'm thinking back on it, I'm just like, oh no, I bet you I kept them together because
that was also a movie that I had a relationship with, right? And so I want them to be together because I was like, that was when I first got together with Sean. I was like, oh, we can be those people, even though like it was not at all parallel. But I definitely. How about you?
Well, you know, I was actually just pondering what you were saying about how it's a little bit easy to be too cynical and like treat them like they're real people instead of movie characters, which I think is like kind of, you know, baked into the DNA of this podcast a little bit. You know, it is about the aftermath and it is about, you know, mapping these movies onto real life as we kind of saw them when we were younger and stuff. But yeah, you know, I mean, what's so unreasonable about expecting that like every movie you see is about someone meeting their one true love that they're going to stay with for the rest of their life? I mean, maybe that's why someone chose to make a movie about this story.
Exactly.
You know, otherwise it would just be real life. And you know, but yeah, I mean, as for like particular predictions that I feel like second thoughts about, I'll just peel back the curtain a bit and be honest that like I don't have a lot of confidence in those to begin with. So I always feel
too,
like I'm winging it. And,
yes, that may be the problem with me as well.
But yeah, I mean, I do. I'd love to pick one out that where like I was like, oh well, this relationship, they're not compatible and they're not going to last, and say like, oh, they're let's say like a blanket statement that all of those maybe could be tilted about like 10-20% more favorable. And as I'm scrolling through the list of movies, the only one that jumps out at me where I was probably a little bit biased was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because like our whole backstory there was that like we saw it the same day that Diana and I got engaged to be married, so I was very much in a frame of mind of long lasting and permanent relationships, and maybe I was a little bit too optimistic with that one, but nonetheless I stand by it, because it's a bit, you walk away from a movie feeling good inside your chest,
Yeah, that and Vertigo. I think those two kids are gonna make it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
she might have survived that fall. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that
spoilers.
Could happen. Spoilers. A movie from 1958 or something.
Yeah, it's funny.
If you haven't seen it by now, I'm sorry. It's one of the most famous movies ever made.
I was just I'm flipping through the screen, The House of Yes.
Oh, yes.
You think those two crazy kids will make it?
I don't remember what I said.
It doesn't matter, because remember, she kills him.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about those. I remember. Okay, I remember arriving, going, I did not do the assignment, and Diana's going to be upset.
Well, it's so funny though, because like there are instances where you come in and you think like, ooh, and I'm just like, I cannot wait to talk about this, and we could do it. And special shout out to our first guest ever, Jen, where she came with Newsies, and it was just uncomfortable, but after watching it, I'm like, there was 4 minutes in this movie and I could talk about that for 6 hours, because that's
how we roll.
That's all
Newsies.
it takes.
She made us. She also got us over. We're like, having guests is fantastic.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Especially,
we don't have to pick all the movies ourselves.
Yeah.
Especially when we're already friendly with them. We have a good rapport, and also, that worked out really well.
Yeah, and I loved it because I actually, Newsies is one of those movies I heard about and never saw, and I was thrilled. Okay, what's Meg's next question?
Okay. If not, okay, so the first one was you want to revise your prediction. If not, which couple did you root for the hardest?
Oh my God, I could not choose. It's like choosing a favorite child. Ooh. Or a favorite dog of Ryan and Diana's.
Fortunately, they all have their own individual moments, so no choosing. Ooh, is that going to be I was referring to the dogs, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, Ryan, you get to go first this time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad, because I actually have an answer queued up.
Oh.
I am going to say The Bourne Identity. Again, setting aside the sequel where, spoiler alert, she dies. But
damn it.
But as we were talking about it, I believe we framed it in terms of like just that movie, and I'm not sure I can say why. I mean, I just think it. I mean, the romance resonated with me so much out of proportion to like how much it was focused on in the movie, because that's kind of been my shtick for my picks on the show. It's like, movies that aren't in the romance genre but have like a romance within it, maybe even just a subplot,
like True Romance
that, well, not maybe
I
not
was
as
joking.
much as True Romance, I mean,
yeah,
that sticks with you. And yeah, I just remember like I was sitting in a parking lot when like lightning bolt of inspiration of like, oh, I should ask Diana if we can talk about The Bourne Identity. And I mean, it was just I feel like it resonated with me because I was, seeing these little parallels to my own relationship in very kind of like subtle, abstract ways, not so much with the car chases.
Those car chases were so subtle.
Yeah, and the movie.
If you've ever seen the cars that these two own, this is even funnier of a joke.
yeah, and the movie ends on this nice little reunion scene, and I just even remember, not even so much the first time I saw saw it, but like I had it on DVD and I rewatched it a good couple times, and every time I just remember the kind of like warm fuzzy feeling. It's like, oh, I'm so glad that they're okay and they got back together, and never watched the sequel. But
well, you know, I support people never watching sequels.
Yeah.
I think that should never happen ever.
Speaking of which, you know, did you root really, 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 really hard for Celeste and I can't remember his name, Ethan Hawke, in Before Sunrise?
I did. That probably. I would say that one was a good one. It's, you know what the thing is, there were people I rooted for that I was not prepared to root for. Like I think a lot of the picks.
I'm listening.
So I was actually I think I rooted for Clueless more than
gross,
I
but
thought
yeah.
I would. Yeah, it's a little gross. But I think I think more that
Okay.
I feel like in general, like one of the things I realize is that you fall in love with a movie by talking about it. It's really dangerous. I agree with you with The Bourne Identity. I think that's actually a really good example because
thank you.
I don't watch a lot of action movies mostly because I find them a little like dull. Or just repetitive. Like
Yes. In fact, one of my answers will prove your point. Please continue.
yeah. But I remember watching The Bourne Identity and I remember that relationship. Like the first time. And then rewatching it, I was like, this is actually a lot more of this relationship than I remember. And I felt really like, because I always thought, I don't remember it because I get bored. Even though I actually enjoyed the action in that movie. It's really fun. But like, really, it was because it made the action more fun because it gave it real stakes. And it made him a real person. So you weren't like, oh, I'm sure he'll make it, whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad you felt that way. Thanks for saying so.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a really good. It always made sense to me. I think, yeah, I don't know. It's like it's almost like there's a bunch of genres in which I feel like I am surprised at how much I liked everybody.
One of the things that I really like about this whole idea, because, you know, Ryan, you've got some action movies here, and I have a handful here, and I'm just like, well, of course I'm leaning on certain action movies here and there, and then these are the movies that I really, really like. So, like, we just did Dirty Dancing. I really, really, really like that movie, but I'm not rooting that hard for the couple in the movie per se. It's like, the movie's fantastic for many reasons, and the couple is also there. You know, dancing, and that was awesome. But for me, I was really thinking about it, Polina, going back to what you were saying about repetitiveness of action movies. The Mummy, the Evie and Rick, I root my butt off for them. And at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, 1 and 2 were pretty repetitive. And yet I'm still like, yay, go for it.
Oh, man, I almost want to change my answer because...
You're allowed to root for...
Well, Evie and Rick don't need the help, but
except
Imhotep and Nasuna Moon, them I'm rooting for.
There you go.
That's a long shot.
I was
but
about to say.
Such a sweet couple for evil villains, but you know.
May I pivot just a little bit? To a
What's
couple.
the next?
Well, no, really quick. The couple that I really, really root for, you know, as I'm flipping through, Doc Brown and Clara in Back to the Future 3.
Yeah.
You were not there, I'm sorry.
That's okay because I didn't have to watch Back to the Future 3, so everyone's a winner.
Shots fired. Okay, fine. And then I will go with this. Although once again, they don't need it. They're like the Rick and Evie of that Benedict and Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing.
I was actually going to say Much Ado About Nothing. I think is the film that you like one of those films that
I came
you
alive
and
in that
I
episode.
you really did. And like I felt like we really found our voice there, and well, not just our voice, but like I also felt like
Our footing.
and like. It was also, I think, a movie that you and I, in a way, is kind of, I thought, exhibited some of the things that made this podcast interesting. Is that for me to do, is that there's 2 things. So one, both you and I had a relationship with that movie, but also, I think, and it was different because we saw it at different points in our lives.
Right.
But the other thing is that rewatching it, you notice characters that you didn't notice. And it was a completely different experience.
Like the sister in Like Water for Chocolate.
Like the sister in Like Water for Chocolate, which was disappointing, I have to say. No, I mean, the sister was great, but I mean, my memory of that movie, the quality of that movie and its real thing. But but like that, because suddenly these other characters, which are so much more interesting, kind of came into play, and the complication, the intricacies of their relationship were so much more interesting.
Oh yeah, I just remembered, by the way, the if I gave Tom Cruise and Elizabeth Shue a happy ending in Cocktail, I would like to take that.
Yeah,
back.
I kind of need to re-listen to that and see what I did.
I forgot what I did. All I remember is I wrote a song.
I'm sorry about it. You did.
I'm not. I wrote a song.
Best episode ever.
Yeah.
I will
always miss Diana's songs are my favorite thing. We should do a compilation.
Oh,
but that takes work.
That,
so we're probably not
I was about to
that.
say, if we had like huge fans that also like editing, like if we were How Did This Get Made, we would have that in our inbox
100%.
45 minutes
Yes.
after the episode came out.
So what was Meg's next question?
And finally, Diana, has your opinion of musicals changed at all?
I'm Meg. I am a lovely email, but I'm offended that you didn't ask me if my hatred of sequels has changed at all.
Because the answer is you first.
That's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good because you actively hated them before. So the fact that you're like, they're not totally terrible, and
I need something very good. So like I will, if you tell me, well, no, I have to trust you.
Yeah.
And when I say you, I'm the person who's recommending a musical to me. If I trust you, and if the runtime is decent, and I want to skip this question.
No, it's okay.
No. The answer is yes. My opinion of musicals is like I have enjoyed some musicals, which is nice.
It's a good start.
Which is the same as I hate musicals. But now I just hate really long movies.
My impression of sequels has not changed at all. In fact, I feel like I'm highly justified in my hatred of them.
Question, don't actually answer this. What'd you think of Wakanda Forever?
Okay, different. That is
an action movie sequel?
No, it's not a sequel. That is okay.
That is literally a sequel.
Well, no, because
it's called Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
No, I know that, but actually, those are what's the word? It's like I guess those are franchises. Like it's a little different than
the password is sequel.
Okay, I really loved Wakanda Forever, but but I feel like those are like a series.
Of course it is.
I love like the second. I love the second one of Sunset. Sorry, so something's spacing on the name. I'm
Just
like
not so much into the Back to the
Beyond
Future cinematic
Sunrise.
universe.
Yeah, it's when they get tacked on that I don't like it.
It's
a franchise. Okay, but I will say, yeah.
First of all, it's before sunrise,
whatever that movie is.
before sunset.
Yeah, and then before
midnight.
Right. I love Before Sunset.
I love Batman Beyond. I've never watched Batman Beyond. So.
Anyway.
Yeah. And my feelings on Jane Austen adaptations are about the same. In that I will watch one and go, it was pretty good.
And I think that's when I knew it was time to kind of move along from the podcast, because your response to most of the movies I made you watch, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a liar. All right.
Were there any movies I like actively disliked besides She-Devil?
I was gonna say She-Devil. I don't remember. You like most things.
I'm easy to please in the movie department.
For the most part, I suppose so. And okay, so Meg, the definitive answer is a little.
Like there's been like a percentage change. But,
I have more trust for people who recommend these things, but that's a trap for Meg because I know that she recommends with care.
Yes.
So
yeah, don't let me do that. I also think I figured out what kind of musicals you like, but I don't know if I want to say because I don't want to. I want to test.
I love this.
Will you tell me privately later?
Yes, I will.
Okay, good.
I think it's more like I think it's also the kind of musicals I made you watch. Like I actually think. Which I get, which is that kind of like 1950s Damien Runyon kind of like, like endless sort of like, it's not as well. I think there are later musicals that you would love more.
Luke, be a Jedi tonight. I mean, I guess the musicals did let me sing more.
I know. I thought you would appreciate that. Okay, so
I do appreciate that. All right.
If there were a musical adaptation of Cocktail with that song as the overture.
I better see some money.
I mean,
and also not get sued.
So let's ask,
the DuckTales
would
people
you
get most
watch
of the money.
a movie musical that was 2.5 hours long of Cocktail?
No.
Okay, there we go.
No.
What movie would have to be adapted into a 2.5 hour musical for it to be interesting to you?
UHF.
Fair enough.
I was just thinking another musically inclined movie that it was just in the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you take
I think they did make Dirty Dancing into a musical.
I know they did a reboot.
Oh, Havana Nights.
No, that's the
I've
sequel.
not seen, by the way.
No, that's the sequel.
Oh, they did.
No,
a
they
reboot.
actually did a
that's
flat out
true.
remake.
Yeah.
They did a remake as well.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
So Meg, I only have so much time to answer, so I will. If my answer was not adequate, you can reach me at heamcast@gmail.com.
HEAMCAST.
And here is Meg's email continued. Thank you so much for generously inviting me on as a guest for Jude Lai, Ewan McGregor, and countless other episodes. Don't forget October, which is why we have Jude Lai and Ewan McGregor, respectively. The recording experience was always fun and casual and really made me feel at home as a guest.
Oh,
and as a listener, thank you so much for providing years of hilarity and entertainment. Much love to you all at Happily Ever Aftermath. Best, Meg.
Meg was on the podcast more than anyone else. Am I right? I mean, other than like Ryan, but he's a producer, so it doesn't count.
My exact answer
doesn't count.
Yes.
Resident guest host.
Yeah. So I think that's and always brought a lot of like really insightful details. So she came with receipts.
She came. She came with Google Docs.
Oh, it was really and I'm like, oh God, I just kind of show up with like some really random notes like on my notebook and paper.
Let's see, what did I write on the last episode notes? Ryan turned it on. Where's the Shirelles? There was no sound.
Nauseating soundtrack. It's a hardship and Fountainhead. And I was testing my pen, so I wrote dirty.
I didn't have many notes. Meg, I absolutely adored how easy it was to record with you. It was seamless. It was easy. It was
so much fun.
So much fun. And also, at the time, you lived close enough to where we could feed you too.
Yes.
So then there was more opportunities for like selfies and more laughing.
And I think, Meg, I mean, just the amount of thought. I think Meg is such a thoughtful, funny brain. And a great voice.
Yeah. And I have acquired her as a part of my friend people. So
she's a good friend person.
I mean, yeah, because I'm like making up words as I just silently talk about like it's just like look at my friend.
Hey, I have friends.
I have a friend. I have a friend. I have multiple friends, and I will definitely talk about it more later. That was not a brag. That was me saying I have more friends thanks to this podcast. Yeah, I had these two friends. I mean, it doesn't count that I married you.
I'm still your friend.
No, I was pointing at Polina when I said that.
Oh, okay, sure.
You're pointing at both of us. It was a confusion.
in the state of California.
Yeah, that's true.
She is my domestic partner.
But yeah, you got to meet a lot of friends that you've stayed in touch with through the various podcast support circles and social media, right. and Meg and others. It's been really great getting to keep in touch with Meg outside of her guest appearances, and I really liked her book too. Everyone go read it.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah. It's one of those things I take for granted.
I want her to have another. I really want her to write another one. I think
she is.
God.
Okay.
I also like in general. I feel like a lot of these people we met through Lady Pod Squad, and everyone. Sometimes there'll be gatherings, and everyone is so smart and funny. I mean, just
welcoming,
welcoming,
supportive.
And hysterical. Like, yeah, like some of the just some of the coolest people. Like if it's, if you're like, I wish I knew more cool people, you should just look up the Lady Pod Squad and just like pick someone and just make friends with them, because most, like 90%, they'll be amazing.
I know, right? We don't talk about that 10%.
No,
we're in that 10%.
No.
We're in that 10%.
Probably are like, except those two.
Yeah.
And the experiences that we all got to share. I mean, I was mostly just kind of basking on the periphery, but going down to the conventions in Los Angeles, the former LA Podfest put on by Chris Mancini and Graham Elwood. Did I get those names right, Diana?
Dave Anthony, and then third name that they redacted for reasons I don't remember.
Right. Yeah. That was sadly no longer a regular event, but it was so much fun. Yeah, while it lasted, God. it was so much geared toward like indie podcasters and even on their own show, Comedy Film Nerds was the podcast at the time. They were always encouraging people to get their foothold in the medium, put your own voice out there. I know that Diana took that to heart, and just watching her, however slowly, come out of her shell and put so much of herself out there on the internet, it was really sweet and inspiring, and I'm really proud of you, Diana.
Oh, thank you, honey. I really appreciate your support. I really appreciate that you got a job that made it so you met Polina. And then Polina, we actually started talking, and then you were demoted to producer. And
I do want to say, like, I think I do, like, if anyone's thinking about doing podcasts, like, that community is amazing, because I remember we had only been doing it for a little while.
Yeah.
And there was like a recording room that they had, and I was just so intimidated to be in there, and every single person, like, by the end, it was like everyone's best friend.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so cool. And we got to do it in the 16 Candles
in the hotel where they did
and Justine.
No, it was Pretty in Pink.
I mean, Pretty in Pink, sorry.
And it was Elisa.
Yeah. It was Elisa, you're right.
No, it was and you're right, because we got to go together.
Yeah.
And the year before, I was just kind of sticking my head in there and was all afraid. And then by the time you and I were there, I'm like, we have equipment in here. And she's talking with me. Yeah.
And we went, remember, and Elisa was so great. She like kind of pushed us to do it too, but we all went in there and like twirled around, and the staff was so wonderful at the Billmore. Because they let us like go in and twirl around.
They were definitely still cleaning up after a party, and like had tables there. No one was in there, but it's just like all the crap was in there, and then it's just like, okay, thank you, pictures, let's go. That was so good. Oh man. So this is Polina. Thank you so much. I have all of these feelings, and I am so grateful that we're in this moment. And this is only one aspect of the last part that I'm recording something, but it was amazing. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Like, this has been... I mean, it was basically a very great excuse to hang out with you.
I know, right? Now we'll just have to rely on burritos and barbecue.
Exactly. There's an amazing barbecue restaurant here, Slow Hand.
And then we got to go to your place and get some more.
Yeah, we need pho. We used to always get pho. We used to always get pho when we went up to my apartment. But it just like being able to think about these movies, like, I think in a way, I think I said this when I left. I wasn't sure if I said this when I left the last time, but I kind of like healed something about my relationship with myself as a teenager, this podcast too.
Wow.
And some of it was just like realizing how universal the experiences were, but also how, I mean, it's just a phase of life, and you're going to be kind of dumb, like, and it's okay. Like, you're going to be smarter in some things, and I think just like, instead of just being like, oh, whatever, I was just such a dumb teenager, and it also like just, I think there's something about putting something out there and just having it be, and not just, and it's just fun, and I think that also just like, it just, even, a lot of things happen in my life since this podcast happened, all of our lives. And I think it was a real, just sort of like always a place of joy. And I really, you made me think about a lot of things I didn't really think about. So it was just like, I think what made this is we were 10 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
We have very different childhoods. We literally grew up on opposite sides of this giant country.
Mm-hmm.
I have no family members. You have tons. Like, there's, you know, just very different experience. And so just to be able to be, you know, think about that through this lens and get to know you in this way that I don't know if I would have gotten to know another person is really such a gift. And also the guests were always so surprising. I think that's the other, like, the thing is, I think it's, you know, I was joking like, oh, we never come with anything. And I realized actually when I came with things, I often rob myself of the surprise. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the best thing about this podcast was actually this, like, constant surprises, and that there's something like to be gained out of, like, some of these stupidest movies, you know, like there's some gem of humanity to, like, glean. So I really appreciate all the people who kind of, you know, went along on that ride, because I felt like it was kind of, there was, like, definitely a therapy aspect to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just trying to think, like, how much did you save in therapy bills?
Oh my God, so
or
much.
did I make more therapy bills?
I don't,
did I
think
uncover
saved it.
something?
But think, okay, one thing, when you thought about them, remember we were like, we just talked about an incredibly sexy movie, and when we first started, that was, like, always the kind of I was always like, let's talk about the sex in this movie, and Diana's like, oh God, do we have to?
There was no sex in the movie, Polina. I fast forwarded through it.
Good point.
No, you're right. I find it kind of liberating that we're just talking about Dirty Dancing, and I was a little bit more, how quickly did I jump to playing the game Marry F Kill?
Yeah. Oh, so fast.
So there is that. I will say one of the things that is absolutely amazing about this podcast is discovering a few things about myself. Like, I had to chip away at so much just, like, unconscious misogyny, and how much I had to just, one, unclench, two, really notice that, you know, action movies are where it's at, you know, romance is stupid and rom-coms are stupid and let's make fun of them, and just like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, like, why am I killing the things that I actually loved, and why is that?
Well, I think I didn't love them. I think I tried really hard not to love them.
Yes, that is actually it.
It was so cynical, and as I told Ryan, like, I didn't think I'd ever get married. I didn't think I'd ever have, you know, a family. I was always so, like, down, my self-esteem was just, like, non-existent. If that's, you know, you were talking about all the teenage, you know, stuff about you. So it was just it was so deep rooted, not to mention my hyper competitive nature, where it's like, put a podcast out there. Oh yeah, we have a podcast like that too. Shut up. No, I'm original. You're not original. Of course I'm not original. I mean, compared to the rest of the world. And then, like I said, when we, you know, connected with the Lady Pod Squad, everyone was so welcoming, and I'm like, why? Why are you so welcoming?
What do you want?
What's your angle? And then just realizing, I think I was so anti-romance because girly and dumb.
Yes. No, I'm the same. Like, I think that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Just accepting that I liked what I liked.
And sharing it with people.
Yes.
And also just hearing other people talk about the things they like, and it's just cool. Is it hurting anybody? No? Yeah. All right.
Because I mean, I definitely grew up with that thing of, like, oh, the things that I, you know, it's, you know, there's that trope, like, the things that women like are considered, considered trash, but the things that, you know.
But the trash that men like.
The trash that men like, yeah.
Make billions.
Yeah. And it's, like, really easy to internalize that, right? Like, yeah, I don't like, honestly, I've really tried to like action movies, like, because I'm like, well, only cool girls like action movies.
Which ones?
I don't know.
Well, one of the things I learned.
I mean, I know lots of cool girls who love action movies, I want to say.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Okay,
might be you.
My thing about that is that, and like, I read my first romance novel. I mean, do we count Sioux Valley High? stealing.
We have to have Sweet Valley High.
Stealing my sister's Sweet Valley High novels
we have
when I was
to count
younger.
Sweet Valley High.
If I look at the real romance novels I started reading as an adult, it was after the podcast started, and it's really just a question of finding the right kind. So it's fine if you don't want to put the effort into it, but action movies, romance movies,
right? There's some genre, yeah.
There's shit ones and there's good ones in all genres.
And also, like, there is something to you have to find the right ones, and also go with the right person who can be like, hey, this is what you're actually looking at, and this is.
Are you subtly dropping a hint for Meg to find me a musical that I like?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, listen, it's been, thank you so much for inviting me on to finish this up. This was such a huge and satisfying part of my life, and also a way I met a lot of wonderful people I hope to see again. And then obviously, thank you for hours of just like fun and laughter and delicious foods and bread.
And the great thing is that we're going to keep doing that. We just won't have microphones.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks, Polina.
Thank you, Diana.
Ryan.
Yes.
We're gonna do a second part of this. So just hang on tight for that. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Diana.
This is that part 2 that I said that I was going to do when we were done recording with Polina.
Yeah, we're back. It's just us now.
Yeah. Kind of like how the podcast just kind of went through. This last episode is modeling what's going on. So, yeah. This is the part where I very, very cautiously apologize in advance, where I say that I just made a very, very long list of all the people that have, like, been a part of HEAMCast in one way, shape, or form. And the apology is that I don't have enough time to craft the actual feelings that I have to everybody. And I will forget somebody because I am, okay, brace yourself, honey. I'm fallible. Yeah, okay, good.
Why didn't you tell me this before we were married?
Because I was in it for the money.
Okay, I think there was something about that on our vows anyway, so.
In good times and infallibility?
Something like that, yeah.
Cool. No.
And happiness and being ticked off at each other.
No, it turns out I'm fallible because I'm a Jimmy Fallon fan.
Oh, well, I mean.
Okay, that's just a lie.
You're not a fan? Or
not a fan.
I've seen you laugh at some of his stuff.
Sometimes. But he's also laughing at his own stuff. This is really not what this podcast is about right now. Okay.
I think we're stalling because we're nervous about the end and want to savor these last moments, you know.
I mean, this is better than me trying to sing It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, which I considered doing, but I don't want to get sued.
If we could afford the licensing rights, you would have to sit through that, so thank you, Lucky Star.
So, like I said, I have a list. And truthfully, like, the list is also like, I could have made Venn diagrams out of it because I'm like, well, I want to thank them because I was a guest on their podcast, but they also guested on my podcast, but also like they're friends of mine now. And so that's the really like tiny center of the ultimate.
So, and this is great HEAMCast bonus content because what you're seeing right now is just a little sliver of what I get to listen to every single week as Diana puts just a lot of effort into getting things just right. And
well, yeah, you said silver, right? Because there's a lot more whining when I'm doing it with you.
Sure. But yeah, the sweat, tears, and self-inflicted blood as Diana, just kind of wrenches herself into knots trying to, make sure she doesn't forget things or make mistakes. And she really cares a lot is what I'm trying to say, sometimes to her own detriment. And that's...
I stopped stabbing myself with a fork accidentally after the first 4 episodes. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that even happened, but...
were you trying to make Patreon content, I think?
It was in the podcast manual. That's how I, the Zoom recorder.
Yeah.
I missed. So, I guess...
Sharp edges on those audio specialty jacks,
Well, it turns out it's battery operated, so...
Right.
If I may say, just to get started, here's my first part of the Venn diagram, we'll say. So, like, these are the podcasts that I guested on, and they were kind enough. So I'm going to start, you actually alluded to it with Polina, but Comedy Film Nerds, Chris and Graham, first podcast I was ever on, nervous as hell, and after listening to it afterwards, 1, got used to hearing myself talk, and 2, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. what's going to happen if like I'm in control? Oh, that was a bad idea. I should just always be a guest. Always be a guest.
Yeah, I was there for you kind of coming down off that high, and that was amazing. Do you want to talk about the backstory to that a bit? Because it was the Kickstarter and
Oh my, well, if anything, you can go and listen to the episode of I'll link to it in the show notes for their spoiler episode for Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. It was they did a Patreon, and I was able to be a guest because I donated to the Patreon. So,
or it was a Kickstarter for one of the comic
Kickstarter,
books, right?
yes. I was also a patron.
So yeah, and that was a rare opportunity to kind of get your feet wet on a major professionally produced podcast. It's not like, oh, she got invited onto that show as like her first big break. Because I mean, they invite on like stand-up comedians and stuff.
You're right.
This was buying your way on, but in a very supportive way that helped get that graphic novel published. I'm sure they're very grateful.
I took a picture of the Zoom recorder that they used and bought the exact same one 'cause I didn't know what I was doing.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so
it's a good piece of hardware.
Yeah, and also they were kind enough to invite me on to their very last episode.
Yeah,
as part of a group of people who listen to Comedy Film Nerds and also became podcasters.
Yeah, because as I talked about a little bit while Polina was here, they were very much promoters of the medium. They funded and produced this whole documentary about people's experiences producing and listening to podcasts, and
Earbuds, the podcasting documentary.
That's correct. And you were one of a number of fans of that show who'd been inspired to start their own podcast. So,
oh god, so speaking of the podcasting festival, they had a lab in dedicated space for people to come grab people who were doing podcasts, and then other podcasters can come and get interviews and like meet people and do segments, and that's where the LA Podcast Festival episode came from. And I want to give a shout out to Cheryl, who not only was on that episode, but she was very friendly to me when I just was at the podcast festival. She was answering my questions, and I was just like, hi everybody, and she was just really sweet. And her podcast was Movies Made Me podcast. I have her magnet on our fridge.
Yes.
And she's just been amazing. We're Facebook friends now, and Cheryl, thank you so much for just being so kind and just informing all of my just questions and without realizing it, just really smoothing my insecurities in the beginning. So that was kind of amazing there. And so also what's kind of great is the Lady Pod Squad. That's a different part of my Venn diagram.
Yes.
But I was actually able to be a guest on so Amanda's Picture Show A Go-Go. One of the first ones was she wanted to talk about Die Hard. And that was kind of amazing.
Choice.
And I was also on a Critics' Choice Awards episode that was just like panic last minute. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch this award show and be on your podcast. Sure, why not? What's also amazing is Jaslyn had a podcast called the Up in 10 Club. It was just 10 minutes of just like somebody welcoming you as you awake. And she had asked for some people to fill in the blanks. And actually that was really important to me because I actually tried to do 10 minutes in a moment. It's hard. I wrote nothing. And so I actually also didn't know how to use Audacity very well because Polina was the one who did all of that work. So
right.
I literally just stopped after like 6 minutes and I'm like, I just need to pause this and figure out how to slice this together. And then I just hit it again. And
turns out it's not that complicated.
Well, no.
I think I had done more audio editing than you at that point.
Yes, that is correct. But Jaslyn, thanks for having me on. And it was interesting because I just got to do it all and then send it to you and then it was done.
Yeah, and thanks as a listener too, because I remember I hadn't previously been familiar with that podcast, but I remember listening to Diana's segment, and it was just something her just kind of doing this monologue. It was very different from the content up to that point, and I was like, dang, she did a really good job. And my wife has a really nice voice.
Aw, thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
ASMR career is not happening for me, so.
Oh man.
All right, I'll just talk to you.
Okay.
Soothingly.
Okay.
In our private home.
Can I record it?
No.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later. And actually, if I may say, thank you Amanda, and thank you, Jaslyn. We have actually, exchanged phone numbers, and I send them Christmas cards. So they're just like, very, very special people to me, and tiny, tiny extra hug with my voice right now, I guess. Looking at the list, I was also on a podcast called 6 Degrees of Wiki. And Rosanna and Nikki were really, really sweet. And it was like kind of partial game show. And I'm just like, quick, Diana, think about the entirety of all human history and think if you can like connect it through Wikipedia articles. So it's a lot of fun. So I really appreciate that. Thanks to Rosanna and Nikki there. Shout out to Kathy Campbell. I was on her podcast, Friends in Your Ears. I love talking about that I was a podcaster talking about the podcast that I like on her show. So that was a hell of a lot of fun. Thank you to Mandy Kay and Matthew for having me on Pop Culturally Deprived. We talked about the movie Saved. And that took me back to like, it's funny because I'm mad at religion right now and this movie's great. So this is fun. At the time, it was called Pups and Pop Culture. And I just made the microphone do that with all those P's that I just said. But it's now called All the Good Dogs. And Kate, thank you so much for having me on to talk about Apollo and his adoption story and all the things. And now I'm just thinking, I got Pepper now, so let's. I'm gonna put a pin in that for later and think about that. Oh, and more recently, But Make It Scary. Ryan, you're more it's more recent, so you're more familiar with my as you alluded to, all the work that I put into these things. Now imagine making up an entire
I was familiar with the 2-month-long writing process that went into your pitch for 27 Dresses scary version.
Okay. The 2-month fretting process, the actual writing took place over 14 minutes. No. Yeah, so that's, I am truly thankful that I was invited on and I got to be a part of this.
Yeah, the result of that was great, by the way. I did really enjoy hearing the finished product.
I do recommend see 27 Dresses and also memorize 27 Dresses to really get the effect of what I was doing. So basically, be me, and then
always a good decision.
And then tell me I'm great. Thank you. A little different sliver of my I don't know, is it a pie now if I'm talking slivers, Venn diagram? Not so much. Okay, so my podcast friends, well, if anything, I want to give a very, very special thanks to Colt 45, who were the ones that were doing a social media campaign that inspired me to pitch the idea of Podcast Blackout to Polina. And so I want to thank them again for just putting that out there and giving us something to participate in. Yeah. Okay. So this one is kind of rough because I wrote down Indoorswomen. And Indoorswomen, that is Meg, a wonderful friend of the podcast and friend of this household's Meg, but also Jen. And I definitely started listening to that podcast early in my Lady Pod Squad days and just immediate like friend crush / like single white femaling where I'm like, I want to be them. And that's dangerous. So instead I looked within and realized, or you can just listen to them and think they're cool. And then maybe there's some way that you can be friends. And now I need to calm down just a little bit, but there will be more happiness words for Meg, given the history up there. But I also want a special shout out to Jen. We got to meet at PodCon 2 in Seattle. You didn't come with me to that.
No, I wasn't there for that one.
But it was so great to meet Jen in person. And I just remember walking into restaurants and talking about our lives and ourselves. And I'm just like, wow, it's like listening to a podcast. But I'm also I exercise with my podcast. It was great to hear stories that were just like not intended for public consumption. Just really good. And also there, Claire from Dragons, Sexy Robots and Adventures, which is great because not the first time I got to meet Claire, because we got to have Magic, the gathering of a bunch of Lady Pod Squatters here
Yeah.
that you technically facilitated.
Partly, yeah.
Hosted,
because
what would you say that was?
Yeah, I mean, we were co-hosting it. I mean, it was in our home, and the whole like playing Magic for the night was that Claire's idea? I remember her being the most experienced player. Like she and I were just kind of playing each other, and the rest of you were kind of like learning / teaching each other the game.
So Meg was there too.
Yeah, that was the first time I met Meg, actually, that evening.
And Jax was there. Oh, God. I think I remember there being a handful of us, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who else was there.
And I made the special Magic-themed cocktails that night.
Yeah, which is just... Did that come up? I think that came up on Claire's podcast.
Oh, right.
And it doesn't help that Meg makes cocktails now, so I'm just like, whose idea was that? I don't want to misattribute it. The point is, listen to all of Dragons, Sexy Robots, and Adventures, and then you can help clarify. Mm-hmm. Because I want to say that was the case.
Yeah, that was super fun. Me getting to dip my toe into this friend pool and hang out with all these cool ladies you were meeting.
There's such a great group of people.
Yeah.
I want to give a special shout out to Lyra, who I got to meet at now. Oh shoot! I almost called it. No, that's what I call Podcast Festival. That's not right. Now Hear This Festival.
Yeah.
So that was the Earwolf Festival that we went to back to back. So we did. I think it was like 1 month apart. We did LA Podfest, and then now that's what I hear. Now Hear This Festival. Yes.
Yeah, fascinating contrast, those two back to back, because like one was very indie and the other was very commercial.
Right, but at the same time, having access to certain podcasts live was just awesome. Mm-hmm. And I got to meet Lyra. I swear this is not a brag, but in the VIP lounge. Mm-hmm. Wait, no. Was it? No, I don't think it was a VIP lounge. It was We Paid for Extra Perks lounge.
Right.
I don't even remember what it was called, but we just, bonded over podcasts and how did this get made and just talking about it, and just all of a sudden it's immediately like, all right, you are now my podcast festival best friend. And also I met Melissa there. It was kind of great because we all connected through social media, but Lyra's podcast Not Porn was just so great to listen to, and it was just like, oh my god, we got to hang out, and then now I get to listen more of your stuff, and this is just really cool. So hello to you, and thank you so much. Ooh, honey, do you remember going to see Dana Gould and Bobcat Goldthwait?
I do.
And beforehand, we got to have lunch with Stephen Izzy and Heather and Craig.
Yeah.
And so, big shout out to Heather and Craig. That was a hell of a lot of fun that we all... 3 of us independently were going to go to that show, and then collectively came together and just created this podcast meetup.
Yeah. It wasn't even, and we had talked about the show in advance, just everyone wanted to see them. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so funny because like after dinner, we all just dispersed into our own sections and then came back together again to get in line for the meet and greet afterwards. So it was just pretty fun. Oh my goodness. Oh, and also local podcaster and a technicality of we all happen to have lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, but so much love to Radaptations, Bridget and Jenny. Bridget, we have met on a handful of occasions for brunch and tiki drinks, and it's just a pleasure getting to know you because I think you are amazing, and I hope to continue to know you. I just won't have a podcast. Mm-hmm. Ryan, you have any pod friends you want to thank?
I do, actually. I'd like to shout out a podcast called The Misplay, which is about an online trading card game named Eternal. And I'd like to thank their hosts, Jason Parmele and Mark Katz, for having me on as a guest, which is, this is only tangentially related to Happily Ever Aftermath, but this was something that came about because I happened to meet them at a local meetup for fans of that card game. And when they were talking about their podcast, I kind of got to talk about like, oh yeah, my wife does a podcast and I've been on it occasionally. So, they were good enough to extend me an invitation to come on as a guest. And I totally had imposter syndrome about it, even though, as they repeatedly reminded me, I both had, earned some competitive success in that game and had something substantive to say about it, and also had podcasting experience, again only as a guest, and they were very accommodating for letting me pause and back up and just editing with a machete around all the parts where I was like stumbling over my words and stuff.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, and we'll get to this a little bit later. I think in Dinah's agenda for this show, Jason was a guest on Happily Ever Aftermath as well. So it was great that we got to make that connection, and that was my own kind of personal moment in the limelight, getting to branch out and show up on a podcast. And even though I probably would have met Jason and Mark and gotten to talk to them, if not for Happily Ever Aftermath, I'm not sure me actually appearing on their show would have happened. So thank you to Jason and Mark for that. And thank you to Diana for putting me in a position to kind of springboard that. And I'm super glad that all worked out.
One of the downsides of trying to like tie my list together is that I want to say this one. Oh, and remember that time when we all met together? And then you accidentally skip cell A20, and then it's just like, oh no. So a quick jumping back here of your fave is problematic. Mm-hmm. Liz and Kristen, holy crap! I devoured your podcast. It was so great to listen to it.
I could tell that was a very influential show for Diana because she was bringing it up in conversation all the time.
Oh, honey, they talked about it on your fave is problematic. We can't like them anymore.
Exactly.
And then I realized, oh no, I'm using this as a weapon now, and I canceled everybody, and then I hated everybody, and then
which, as I understand it, is kind of contrary to the point of
I didn't say I was good at this.
I know,
I'm saying
it's like...
I'm just pointing to experts, Liz and Kristen, who constantly tell me that your mileage may vary. Wait, oh crap! I think I need to listen to it all again.
Yes,
but no, it was wonderful, and they were kind enough to in the lab at Podfest. I recorded something for them, and Liz was on ours for the Titanic LA podcast episode. So thank you so much to both of you. It was wonderful binging your podcast.
Yes.
This is kind of strange because it's these are. Some podcasters talk about how it's just very strange to put a podcast out there and then people come to you and say, I listened to your podcast. And it's like, what? It's kind of unusual. So when it's, your coworkers or your siblings, it's even like an extra layer of just uncomfortableness that I love, that I'm slowly working. I still can't stop the blushing and the generic discomfort, but I'd like to give a shout out to my siblings, Stephen, Patrick, and Stephanie, for all of their, texting and just saying like, oh my God, I just listened to this episode. Extra special shout out to my brother Patrick, who has emailed me paragraphs and has gotten into so many like binges and then would apologize for not watching a movie. I'm sorry, I'm behind. I'm like, okay. It's a love language of sorts. What love? It's not. Is it an act of service? It's kind of an act of service.
I just was very amused by the fact that Patrick seemed to have a conception of the rules of listening to the podcast, that one must watch the movie in order to fully appreciate, and that must be hereditary because Diana has. There have been times when she like joined a podcast fandom or something that I recommended to her, and she insisted on listening to the archive from episode 1 before catching up to the current stuff. And I'd want to talk about current episodes with her. She's like, I'm working on it. I'm almost caught up to the present. And it's like, you don't have to listen to them in order. It's like, no, that's not how I do things. So,
but how would I know what the running gags are?
Exactly.
I don't hear it from the beginning.
You are not about to get half of the listening experience, are you? You got to get the full experience.
Yeah, and that's when I gave up on doing everything, because everything is now a franchise.
It's also been a growing experience.
Wow. Yes.
Accepting one's limitations.
All right, but I stand by that. When I was a guest to talk about Magic Mike XXL, I had to see Magic Mike.
Yes.
I stand by that decision.
You need the world building.
Quiet you. They're coming up with a third one very soon. I mean, this just happened a couple days ago, but my coworker and wonderful friend Natalie messaged me, said, hey, guess what I'm doing as I'm getting ready for the day? I'm listening to your episode. And I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you so much, sweetie. And also, what did I say on that? Is
it after this long, it just still doesn't feel real that people like actually listen to your content?
I mean, at best, it's like people I've never heard of, like getting hold of this. Like, I barely listen to my podcast, but that's how it works, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Are you supposed to listen to your own podcast after you've just recorded and published it?
I gotta edit it, babe.
Yeah, I know, but like afterward, or
I got to make sure I edited it correctly.
right? Because otherwise, how would you know whether to feel embarrassed?
I always know that's my secret, honey. I'm always embarrassed. And also special thanks to Talitha, who not only was incredibly supportive and asked me about it all the time, but sent me a t-shirt that says "Ask me about my podcast," because she wants to be so supportive. She wants me to be talking about it as well. And I'm like, thank you. Mm-hmm. Can you just, okay, thanks. I don't like to talk about it. And that's helpful half the time when I don't know. Anyways, Ryan, rescue me right now.
Okay. With what?
I don't know. I'm embarrassed about talking about my own podcast.
Oh.
This is my worlds are colliding right now, where I'm thinking about me talking about my podcast to my coworkers, and they're just like, "Oh, that's so great. Tell everyone else."
I also have dropped your podcast into a lot of conversations, oftentimes without even really meaning to, but just like someone asks, what did you do last weekend? And sometimes the answer was, oh, I recorded I was a guest on an episode for my wife's podcast. And oh, your wife has a podcast? So I would love to name everyone who has expressed interest and in many cases actually gone and listened to the show after me mentioning it in casual conversation. I'm not even going to try to list them by name because I know I would inevitably forget people and then I would be embarrassed. But to each and every listener who has heard that and thought it was interesting enough to check out, I also want to say thank you. It lets me bask in the glow of Diana's content production a little bit, and I'm very proud of what little I get to contribute as a recurring guest and so forth. So thank you for that, and really thank you to all of you for listening, because we're not major content producers, we are not internet celebrities here, and it is really a special feeling that we've gotten to create something that mattered enough to someone else, even just to be in your ears while you're doing your laundry. Like maybe to you that's ordinary, but to us it's very special.
Yeah, it really is. And that's also a reminder that I need to do laundry tonight. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were at Ryan's company Christmas party, and someone said like, "Oh my God, I've listened to your podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. What else do you listen to?" And that was just easier to just do that, because, it's I'll do a few things. Hey, what's your movie? Or, what's this, that, and the other. And I promise it's not a trick. Like, "Oh, you listen to my podcast? What's your movie?" No, it's just like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, what's something about you and not me now, please and thank you." Oh, all right. Let's go back into, podcast friends or podcast people. That makes things a little bit more separated, a little bit more on point, on where I'm a little bit more comfortable. And I'd like to thank the people who have been a guest on my podcast. Mm-hmm. I put together, like I said, I got a spreadsheet.
Yes.
And let's go with these fabulous guests here. Big thanks, Nerdy Bitches Liz. I mentioned Nerdy Bitches Heather before. I have not had a meal with Nerdy Bitches Liz, but she was kind enough to come on for my Pink Lady December Grease 1 and Grease 2. Mm-hmm. So that was a hell of a lot of fun. Oh geez. Andrea Martucci. I am still subscribed to her podcast Shelf Love, and I love what she talks about with romance novels and the way she dissects it. It was a lot of fun talking to her, and she actually said, "No, Diana, you are a romance reader." And as much as I crumbled a little bit, I'm like, I need to own this. Yes, I do. Later, though. But pleasure to have her. Oh, my goodness. Jasmine, thank you so much for just accepting my Instagram direct message to you and for talking about Operation Christmas Drop. Mm-hmm. And bringing a little bit of extra Guamanian knowledge to the podcast. It was very, very, it's just wonderful. Ryan, I have right here, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much, Jason. Ryan gave his shout out, but I also want to give my thanks as well for coming on. Oh my goodness. Kelly, from the Throwback Book Stack. She joined us on a QSAC run, and even more fun when I went to PodCon with her. I saw her tweet that she was about to go to PodCon, and I was at the Oakland airport when that happened, and I turned around and there she was. I'm like, ah! So we shared a row on the way there, so that was actually a lot of fun. Oh, and we had lunch. And she showed me what public transportation I should take. So that was, thank you, Kelly, for many, many, many things, but also that. Oh my God. Okay, so once again, this is real life colliding with podcast life. But Kevin, thank you so much for suggesting It's a Wonderful Life. I just messaged you the other day because I needed an updated address for Christmas cards, but I love that I got to watch that movie for realsies. I love that I got to talk to you about it, and I am grateful for you bringing it up. And I also love that you also had a podcast for a little while, so we got to nerd out about that for a little while.
Yeah, it was fascinating watching the impact of that particular movie on Diana, because it was like, oh, I never realized there was so much to this movie. I just kind of, pop cultural osmosis of the last 30 minutes, and
Yeah, this movie is not for children. As much as they want us to, make it, I mean, I should have figured it out, just like the guy wants to kill himself. Yay, Christmas!
As much as Diana loves movies, sometimes it can take a lot to convince her to commit the time to watching something. So
2 hours.
Yeah, so I think you did add something to Diana's film discussion repertoire there.
Just a little bit. I mean, thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
On behalf of Ryan. Oh my goodness, Mallory. Oh my God, thank you so much for joining me. I find myself a little bit more informed about non-heterosexual, non-monogamous relationships, and being able to talk about Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, and hearing all of the things that you shared. It's just like I wanted to have a notebook and just like ask questions while simultaneously not being overly like prying. So thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on. And it was a wonderful discussion, and it was a great movie too. I thought it was fantastic. So Marie and Connie, we got to talk about The Devil Wears Prada, and I loved that you came together and we talked about it. And not to mention that it's like, yes, here's the parts about this relationship, which by the way, we all agreed was, that guy sucked. But I love also just the additional dynamics of watching Anne Hathaway's character and working and just changing and just having that extra perspective that they provided. So thank you so much for doing that. Ooh, this one, fantastic. So Polina got to bring in her friend Paul. So I didn't have the friend factor in there. Paul, fantastic meeting you. Loved having you. We talked about Highlander. It was just the fact that, like, the stuff you brought up about your mom, it was a lot of fun, and it was such good times. Thank you for making the time. Oh, shoot. Okay, so Perla came on for the Selena episode, and Perla I got to meet at Podfest as well. And it was amazing because without even trying, I ran into her at PodCon.
Yeah.
And so we connected, and, when Polina and I were doing the podcast, she's like, you got to come on. We want you to come on. She's like, I want to come on. And so we just couldn't connect. When we met at PodCon, everything was just happening. And then Polina, decided to step away from the podcast. It was always just never the right time. But I loved that we got to make the time. Thank you so much for coming on, talking about Selena, and for just, being so nice to me. Meeting, connecting. I love that, you've moved recently and you're in Seattle, and I just, it's amazing following you on social media. So I greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to remember if you ever got the chance to meet Robin, another one of Polina's friends. She came on to talk about Xanadu. And
I think I've met her in another context. I don't think I was around for that podcast episode.
I don't think you were there for the podcast episode, but I'm just wondering if you happen to have caught her, because so many.
I think I hung out with her at another time.
I'm wondering that too, because it's always hard with the musical. That was a lot of fun. Oh, especially just watching Polina and Robin bounce off one another.
Yeah.
But I'm always on my guard with musicals, but Robin, thank you. That was a lot of fun. And also, it's good to know that particular context of just like, what the hell does Xanadu? I mean, I kind of know, but I guess I know a little bit more now that I've watched Xanadu, but maybe not so much. I want to thank Valerie Rose Lohman for coming on and talking about devs. It was so great to have you join me to talk about it. And also, it's really great hearing The Flame and podcast or what's it called? It was a romantic podcast musical. Right. I don't know the right order to say that,
romantic
but
musical podcast.
That sounds better than what I said. So yeah.
Yeah, that was fun for me too. I remember Diana telling me about this person coming on and saying like, "Oh yeah, she's a voice actor and she's been in video games and stuff." And that's just a topic that I happen to geek out about a lot, just like voiceover acting in general and in video games in particular. And it's like, "Oh, she was the star of Wolfenstein Youngblood." It's like, "Oh, I totally know what that is. Oh my god, this is so cool. This is like, can't believe she's coming on your podcast." So that was a lot of vicarious fun for me as well.
Yeah, well, that's what my podcast is, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Yes, plus work. Yeah, and then, special shout out to Vita Short, who came on, and it just occurred to me, so she came on for, the Matthew Modine movie. I can't remember what it's called. But there was wrestling involved, and it was a wonderful discussion, I promise. But I forgot that I was on your podcast, 300 Passions podcast. Yeah. So thank you for that. And I don't like that my mind is not working for me right now. What is the Matthew Modine wrestling movie? Help me, Ryan. Help me, internet.
What? Spirit Quest? Or...
Vision Quest.
Vision Quest. Yeah, I was close.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Woo. So now I have 2 podcast guests that I want to do a special thanks to. So managed to have Janet Varney on the podcast twice.
Oh man, that was exciting.
And I consider that to be just like a big milestone that she came on to talk about Sense and Sensibility. And then my heart got to explode when she said yes to coming back. Yeah. Because in my mind, that means I did something right.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, I managed not to do something very wrong, which is amazing. And
you want to talk about geeking out over voiceover actors. I was just like, oh my God, Cora's on the podcast. This is amazing.
It was wonderful. And it was an honor and a thrill and a privilege. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Janet. I also want to thank Daniel Van Kirk for coming on. I've been a fan for a very long time, and I could go on for a really long time. And if I'm not careful, I might start going into a Daniel Van Kirk accent of one of his characters. So I'm going to come back and say thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. It meant a lot to me. And I will use the same words. It was an honor and a privilege to have such very talented people that I had been following for a long time come together and spend time with me on my podcast. In a different vein, I think you are very familiar with this guest that I want to say thank you to, Carly Sconnard. Yes. Carly came on to talk about Casper, and it was kind of amazing that here we are. I'm geeking out over Devon Sawa and realizing that he had similar features to my husband. And then she's just like, yeah, I like the ghost. That was a fun discussion, and I had a wonderful time, and I know Polina did too.
Yeah, thanks, Carly, for coming on. And for those not picking up from context, Carly is my sister, and it was
my sister too.
Your sister-in-law, yeah, and that is it was super fun to get to rub some of my family into this as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of good. Not married to family, but my best friend. I want to give my appreciation to Erin, who came on. We talked about Tommy Boy, which if you really let us, we could have made, she would have been able to recite Tommy Boy, and that could have been the whole podcast. We may have done that. I don't know. I may have been able to cut us off in certain places, but not to mention Dirty Work. That movie, damn it. It's just not good and yet just so ingrained. So it is the perfect example of just like, get out of my psyche. But overall, that was a hell of a lot of fun. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah. Back to my Venn diagram whole situation. What's great is that Heidi from Vibrant Visionaries. I've also shared time at a tiki lounge with her. We've had brunches. I mean, she was kind enough to invite me just to talk podcasting, while I was having lunch at work one day. So that was wonderful, just kind of meeting up, just kind of sharing stories, exchanging dog photos.
Dogs.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So thank you, Heidi. It was a pleasure to know you and to continue knowing you because I got your phone number. Yay. I also remember back to the Lady Pod Squad, listening to Best Forevers. Big fan of Elisa, who was kind enough to come on for 2 episodes, one being Pretty in Pink, which is huge. And in fact, what's awesome is that Polina got to talk about that. We getting to meet at Podfest and geeking out in the hotel where they filmed Pretty in Pink. So that was a lot of fun together. And just 3 podcasts now. She's podcasting like a machine. And also I got to see when she got her dog Finn. It's like, that's a great thing about social media friends. So I mean, please check out our podcast. It did a lot for me in thinking about friendship and just, but also, mourning over when friendships are lost and really looking at friendships in movies and really thinking about what's important about it. So it really affected me. So I'm grateful to you. So appreciate it. One of the things that got really hard when Polina wasn't around anymore was just kind of like grabbing a guest. And so in my attempts, it was, well, what's out there and what can I listen to hear about what people like to talk about? What are their sensibilities? And just completely a magic opportunity of 2 things colliding. I had been watching videos of reviews of the movie Promising Young Woman. And this YouTube reviewer just like said some amazing things. I'm like, wow, this is kind of amazing. Oh, they also have a podcast. Diva Daly's podcast. I that doesn't really seem like it, but this movie. And then I just started listening over and over again. And Steffi, the host of Diva Daly's, incredible host. And I just slowly just messaged through YouTube. I'm like, hi, this was really great. I also have a podcast. Would you be so kind? Boom. We connected. And I'm grateful for that because it's so hard to, connect with somebody. But Steffi, fantastic guest on the show. And it was just so nice. And then when I was done, I'm just like, cool. And now I'm going to go listen to the Jennifer's Body episode of Diva Dailies just because it's just a great show. And so thank you, Steffi. It was so kind of you to show up and talk about Whitney Houston, but also give all your insights on things. Whitney was actually just tangentially related. I think you'll like this one. Polina mentioned it. It was a lot of fun, but Jen, our first guest.
Yeah.
And I love that looking at my notes here, Jen was on 3 times.
Right.
And it doesn't even feel like it because I think about Newsies because Polina likes to, laugh about it with me. Even though I still stand that like, I don't care. That was a fantastic movie for this podcast.
Yeah. As we mentioned earlier, the review of Newsies kind of became part of our vocabulary as like just the example of, there's no limit to like how small of part of a movie can be expanded into how large of a discussion. So that was, I think it's fair to say that was a formative experience in sort of like the way the show is done. So that was helpful. And and it was just good to, the learning what it's like to have these 2 hosts with a guest. And Jen is a good friend of both Polina's and mine. And, we love getting to hang out and talk with her. So that was fun.
Plus an excuse to finally watch Empire Records.
Right. And
to rewatch The Fifth Element because I did not like it the first time. And then rewatching it, it's like, it's a It's like the Amelie effect. Now that
Right.
I'm walking into this and know what to expect, I'm like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah, that's actually something else with with Amelie in particular. That was like the movies that you really enjoy once you understand what you're getting into.
And as much as it pains me to kind of bring this up, just like, oh shoot, I think I appreciate the whole Newsies thing because Romy Michelle's high school reunion, I was really obsessed with the cowboy from that movie, and he had like 4 lines, but appeared in so kindred spirits, myself and Jen.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so this is I'm going to steal this from Saturday Night Live. These are now the members of the Five Timers Club.
Cool.
And this is going to be special, extra, happy. I'm running out of words, honey. Pull out the thesaurus because I appreciate so much. And yet I think if I say thanks and appreciate too much, I'm going to like cause people to get alcohol poisoning if they're doing a shot for every time I do.
The HEAMCast drinking game is not recommended.
Oh no, never is, even though we talk about it all the time. Oh my goodness. I actually think I pointed it out when she hit her 5th episode, but Justine. Oh my. Okay. So I think Justine is in the center of the Venn diagram because this is my Lady Pod Squad friend who did a romantic comedy podcast. So I was a guest on the Cutaways, and that was really, really wonderful. But also she's been a guest on our podcast, but also like she's one of my greatest friends.
Aww.
And it's so funny because it's just like, hey, what's going on? Talking about normal life. She's like, hey, can I be on the show? I want to talk about this. It's like, oh, right. I forgot. I forgot that there's a podcast that I have. And also that's how we met. And because it just seems so natural and just straightforward and just like, Merry Christmas texting back and forth or whatever it is that's going on, or this is what I'm doing this weekend, or how's it going? It's I've said it before, but it's one of the greatest things to come out of this podcast is the friendships that I've made.
Yeah.
Hugs to you, Justine. The great thing is that even though the recordings are going to stop, friendship is just going to keep going.
Yeah.
That's nice. And we traveled together.
Yeah, you did.
We met in Chicago and we saw things and there's photos. You're on my wall.
Yeah, that's a high bar for Diana because she's a nervous traveler.
I was about to say, yeah, I don't like putting stuff on the wall.
That too.
Oh, so that's you're my Chicago guide.
Yeah.
And that was really nice. But I'm sorry. I'm just beaming right now with happiness because it's good times.
Yeah. I remember how happy you were on that Chicago trip as I was like checking in on the phone in the evenings, and yeah.
It worked out really well. So this is going to be part of a series of friends that I made because of podcasting who abandoned the Bay Area. And so also part of the Five Timers Club, Steve and Izzy. Everything I learned from movies. It is kind of worrisome the way that just things from that podcast are now in our everyday lives. I believe you quoted them the other day pretty recently, so...
I felt like I missed a cue after you said their names. I should have jumped in and said, who are they, Diana?
And I don't think that this was, but I swear something happened where you just chimed in with like, you're top.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So congratulations. You are now a pop culture reference for us.
Yay.
It's
how we communicate.
It's how we communicate. I have a wall of Gary the Unicorns in my wall. Just like, come on, we trade animal pictures.
And hand-drawn animal portraits in some cases.
I am so grateful to you both for not only giving me an outlet once this podcast is over to continue to talk about movies while it's being recorded, but just being amazing people, and for also liking the same like comedians that I do. Yeah. Which made it so I could just start talking to you, and then, it shouldn't be a surprise that, hey, we met on social media, but then we also met because we were at SF Sketchfest at a Dana Gould panel and Janet Varney was there. Are we seeing a trend here?
And I do feel like if there's going to be a spiritual continuation of Happily Ever Aftermath, it will probably come on the upcoming guest appearances on Everything I Learned from Movies, especially since like certain like trends and personality facets of Diana I've heard spill over into those interviews. In particular, the discomfort with like the sex scenes in the movies. And do you want to tease what that might be sort of cause and effect there?
So there will be theme months, and actually, you know what? No, if you want to hear all about this, you can go to Everything I Learned from Movies and check out the announcements for their theme months, especially for February. I think I said enough on that episode.
I don't want to steal their download counts, but they're just definitely
but it also
pressing on Diana's.
Did you not hear my earlier thanks when I said that my siblings listen to this podcast?
Right.
So I will continue. I have already booked my time with Steve and Izzy, so anything that happens, they'll edit it. Yay!
Yeah, and a special shout out to them as well for inviting me along on several of the episodes where Diana was there. They brought in the pair of us. So any opportunity for me to sit around in front of a microphone and play like I'm a real podcaster like Diana is a fun time for me. So
I am looking forward to my big friend tour in 2023 when I get to see you in your place that is not the Bay Area, damn it. So, yay. I'm going to meet the doggy. I'm going to meet the sushi. Same thing. Sushi is the dog.
Yes.
Yay. I'm almost like hesitant to start saying thanks to Meg, not because I don't want to thank her, but because she is our number one appearance guest. Woo! She, I did the math here, 10 appearances, and I feel almost like, again, that whole single white female thing that I mentioned earlier has evolved into like, Meg, you're my friend, and it's amazing, and it really sounds awkward as I'm saying it into the microphone, because how do you say to your friend that you just talked to, like, oh, by the way, you're cool. Ryan, help me out here. You think Meg is cool too?
I definitely do. Yeah, she's a novelist. I've read her book. I'm looking forward very much to the next one. She's a film buff and literature buff, and I've really enjoyed getting to.
Now I'm really starting to wonder why she's friends with me.
Come on, you qualify as a film buff at least.
I qualify as a fan of
the
things that she creates.
Yeah, and I love getting to talk books with her, and a number of her recommendations have led me to just go off and read an entire novel, which is great.
You've effectively like shrunk the space in our cabinets because of all the cocktail recipes.
Oh yes,
that she has made,
recipes.
And therefore
I'm not what you would call a cocktail buff. I really kind of like enjoy the idea of mixology, but I have like no palate for hard liquor. So I'm always looking for interesting ways to, dilute whiskey and rum and such down to tiny quantities in some kind of sweet mixer. So not all of Meg's recipes meet that definition, but she definitely inspires me to try things, and sometimes they burn my throat. But I really enjoy the creativity there, and trying to follow along at home, and going off and buying all kinds of different liquor and taking tiny quantities and then keeping the rest of the bottle. And Diana's been very tolerant about that. So
the point is, Meg, you made my husband a drunk.
Right.
But also you made me drunk with friendship.
Yes. Yes, she's our TV viewing buddy.
It's really unfortunate that in my recording of this that I have hit this point where I'm stalling, and I'm just trying really hard to think of the right words to a professional writer. The point being is that, Meg, I am grateful that this podcast was a butterfly effect to getting to meet you,
Mm-hmm.
to sharing great meals with you, to talking about random shit with you, and talking about serious shit with you, and you being incredibly supportive of just when times were good and when times were bad.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. And like I had said before, just because the recording stops, that doesn't mean that, the friendship isn't. So
Yeah.
I'll say more dorky things when I'm not recording myself.
Yes.
Oh, shoot. Speaking of dorky things,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, I want to thank you.
Oh, really? What did I do?
Yes. So now you understand how it's really hard for him and I to be serious
Well,
when we know other people are around. Not the dog.
I feel like producer Ryan is, in case it wasn't clear, it was pretty much just a running gag because I'll accept some credit for like the kind of idea and concept phase of this, and I will want to go down in history as the person whose idea it was. It's like Diana's looking for a co-host. It'd be really good as Polina. But yes, after that initial launching phase, I have done little to nothing to keep this podcast going. Diana has done a ton of the work, and I just feel very grateful to be along for the ride. But I'll save the rest of that for my thank you wrap up. I don't want to step on your gratitude here. So yes, please do say more nice things about me while everyone is listening.
One of the things I think is very important is I 100% recognize what you said. Yes, you definitely put things in motion for me and Polina, but I don't want you to downplay how important it was to sit in that chair in front of a microphone when I was stuck because I didn't have the social bandwidth to find a guest or to and all the extra work that I do, research a guest to see if they were a right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, one of the big reasons why it's kind of coming to a close right now is I feel like I have drained all I could to keep things going, but it was
said everything that you had to say, I believe is how you put it earlier.
Well, you know me, I can keep talking.
Well, of course.
But emotionally, I think I've said everything that I wanted to say. And I really appreciate you being the person responding to me because just listening and recording with Polina not too long ago, Polina made it so easy because for some reason she at least acts like I'm hilarious and it's really easy to feed off that energy. Mm-hmm. Whereas with us together, we very easily say that we love each other's nonsense, but we don't necessarily have the same jovial laugh that Polina will do that we can feed off of. So I consider it to be a little bit more difficult having conversations with you on the podcast because I want to make you laugh so hard. And when I do, it is a gift.
Aww.
But our time together has been very important to me, and I really do appreciate you doing this with me. Mm-hmm. You won the bet. I cried.
Aw.
I love you very much.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you. And I love doing this, and I love that that creating this podcast has been such an experience for you. And now I guess I need to say my piece because there's one last really important person who hasn't been thanked yet. And I guess as my final duty as producer is that I have to speak on behalf of the audience and say thank you, Diana, for willing this thing into being. Because for all the contributions of all the guests and for all of the great work and content that Polina put into this, the show is truly your baby. You are its author, and I can speak from the perspective as a participant and a guest, and we heard all of those lovely emails from the people who listened to the show and got entertainment and joy out of it. And for every one of them there are probably hundreds more that we didn't hear about, just silently downloading, and we know you're there, and we appreciate those of you too, and I'm sure they appreciate you, Diana. And I got to say my bit a little bit when we were talking with Polina earlier about how proud I am of you for putting yourself out there, because I know both from, experience in similar situations. I have creative ideas sometimes, and I sometimes had an impulse to like, oh, I should write a thing or make a video or start a blog, and I have all these ideas, and of course, like for every dozen or 100 of those ideas, it can be really hard to summon up the actual motivation and guts to put yourself out there. And I was there for a lot of the self-doubt and the kind of trying to motivate yourself, and the fact that you broke through all of that and actually made this thing happen is just amazing. And somewhat separately from that, I also just want to congratulate you on the sheer amount of work and care that you have put into this. And I've been cracking a lot of jokes about how Diana, obsesses and overthinks things and works way too hard, and it's just, meticulous attention to every last detail. But, that's just how she is. And I don't think there's any other way that she's capable of doing a thing like this. And, I guess I just want to, as this is coming to a close, it's definitely going to be bittersweet, but I think above all, I just want to say congratulations on a job well done. This you can look back at Happily Ever Aftermath as a completed task, and one that you did an amazing job on, and you definitely poured your heart and soul into making it the best podcast that you knew how to do. You learned a lot, you adapted a lot. It's this 5.5-year process, and you can sort of see, not just you kind of growing and shaping yourself, but also shaping and adapting your relationship to the podcast itself, to the medium. You learned how to edit, and a lot of the production periphery, the social media posts, and engaging with your guests, engaging with your podcast support network. I've seen firsthand how it's been a huge part of your life, and I hope you are as proud of yourself for everything that you've put into this as I am of you, and of how appreciative I'm sure all of your listeners are. So speaking as a listener, which I also am, I just want to close by saying thank you for all of that. Thank you for all the work. Thank you for all of yourself that you've put into this, and the time and sweat, and congratulations, you did it. This is the finish line. You can look back, and I hope you're very proud of yourself, because you deserve to be.
Thank you. I actually had to go to a different place mentally, to where if I actually listened all the way through, I think I would have blubbered harder.
Is this going to be very difficult to edit?
No, I'm going to leave this all in.
Okay.
But
I just meant because you'll have to listen to it again.
Pretty much, yeah. Actually, that's what I was thinking. I was actually going to say, but I'm sure I will cry again when I listen to this when I edit it. But also, I thank you. Thank you very much, but also I'm very embarrassed because I did not thank the listeners.
No, you were just saving that for the big finish, right?
I'm not editing this part, so I will admit my folly. No,
you talked all about thanking the listeners in the first segment with Polina when you read all the emails and stuff.
Okay.
You just didn't thank the listeners today because we recorded that earlier, but
yeah.
But you definitely thanked the listeners. I was there. I heard it.
You did. You thanked them.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I tuned this all out. I don't know how to end now. Maybe that was very sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's all there is now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long it'll take for me to get my voice back. It'll also create a continuity problem.
It's okay. And yeah, as you were saying before, this is not the end. We're still going to be around on the internet. We're still going to be popping up on other podcasts. And, Diana, I think the podcasting bug has bitten you for life in one form or another. I have endured many pitches for your next big podcasting project, many of which admittedly were just clever titles that you then attempted to shape a concept around, but others were actual concepts in need of a title.
I love puns.
She does, yes, from the creator of July and October.
Uh-huh. Pink Lady December.
You and May Gregor, I think, is the biggest one.
Phraseolory.
Mm-hmm. But
how about In Streep Shit, the films of Meryl Streep?
The point is, this is not a total ending. This is just an ending until the next thing. So, and like I said, it's an opportunity to congratulate yourself on a job well done.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So, if you don't have anything more to say,
well then, that is the case. So
yeah, and look for us on Twitter and so forth. Or you're gonna do the
no, I'm not gonna be on Twitter anymore.
You're not? Oh, yeah. I mean, as we record this, we're still not sure if Twitter is going to still be on Twitter. So but you'll be able to find us. There are search engines. You know our names.
Well, allow me to put it this way: the social media, the Facebook page, the Twitter and Instagram, it'll all be there. Mm-hmm. Direct messages are available. At best, if you really want, your best bet is the email HEAMCast@gmail.com.
That's HEAMCAST.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But beyond that, I think that's all there is, and it's officially wrapped.
Woohoo! Wrap party.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, let's get some food.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's all there is. May you be happy. Da, 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 da.